Here we are back to the boat, and I think I'm going to name this either the SS Minnow or the Titanic or the Lusitania or something. Because my oh my, let me tell you. Well, let me go back. Let me do the good news first. One of the things I pointed out earlier is that the standard DB9 cables were gigantic, and the new small ones are much better and they fit much more nicely. Let me get the remote. Oh, where's the remote? So here's the remote. It's mounted on the back. The cable fits nicely. That's all well. Well, I filled up the tub and the boat didn't work. And I was like, great. And when I first got this boat, I tried it out. It was acting strangely. I thought, oh, it's just not in water. Well, it's more than that. So anyhow, here's what's happening. The boat, first off, the boat itself is very hard to adapt because it's completely sealed to be waterproof, which is good from a toy standpoint, bad from an adapting standpoint. It's got this here where it comes off and you put your 6 AA batteries inside. And I had figured out before that these two contacts are basically what tell the boat to power on or off. There's no power switch. It's purely by whether that has low resistance against it. So when it's wet, it has very low resistance and it will work. I'd wet my finger, I put probes across here, everything else, just wouldn't work. Went back to the, because this was originally from Cabela's, and it's their Nitro Z21 boat. And the common complaint that people had was that it chews through batteries. Goes through batteries, goes through batteries, goes through batteries. Which told me that it's probably a power problem. It's probably underpowered. The batteries just aren't enough. Now, AA batteries in theory are rated at 2 amp hours. So this little battery can do 2 amp hours, but not for long. So even a little bit of a discharge is going to bring down that power, and it's going to bring down the voltage. You're driving 2 electric motors in here, which are relatively big current draws. Long story short, I powered up my bench supply, and instead of took the batteries out. Instead of using batteries, I attached my bench supply negative over here and positive over here, and I set my bench supply at 9 volts, and then set it at a fixed amperage of about I think 200 milliamps or so. That's where I normally sit at. Doesn't do anything. Turn on the remote, it doesn't pair, whatnot. Rank it up, wrap it up, wrap it up, wrap it up. Well, what I finally saw is once I started getting close to the bench supply supplying an amp of power, at least one of the motors started running. So that was good. And the remote was pairing. I then ramped it up, ramped it up, ramped it up. And what I found was I had to set my bench supply at about an amp and a half, almost 2 amps, to get both motors to run under a no load situation. So under no load, not in the water, it's taken an amp and a half of power just to get the thing running. And so that's just kind of it's a real drag, because there's no way that these AA batteries, if they're super fresh and like name brand, you might get some time out of it. Otherwise, you're going to have a heck of a time. It was pulling, I think, close to 15 watts, which is really quite a bit for a toy, but it's 2 electric motors. Electric motors are notorious for being power hogs. So what I'm looking at here, I know the boat does work if it's got high-end batteries in it, or if it's on a bench supply. So my initial thought is, let me put a more powerful battery pack on here to supply more juice to alleviate that problem. So you think, like a 12-volt lithium ion pack would be a good idea. The problem is a 12-volt lithium ion pack is a big pack. It's probably half the size of this boat. And I don't know if it'll sink it, but the bigger concern is water. Lithium ion, bad news when it comes to water. It gets wet, it gets shored, it goes into a thermal runaway, and it's one of those fires, like you've probably seen in the news, that when the battery's on fire, you can't put it out with traditional fire extinguishing water, right? Water or baking soda or whatever doesn't work. You have to run halon, you have to run all sorts of crazy things. So it really needs that sort of battery, but that sort of battery is a bad thing to try to retrofit into something that's going to be in the water, that you're going to risk getting wet. It's going to get wet. So I think with this, I wish that they had just gone with bigger batteries. Honestly, this boat needs C cells or D cells, something that have significantly more power. Again, they're going to be significantly larger, but there's not a whole lot you can get around it. This reminds me of a kit that my dad put together back in the day. He built a PT 109 model, and it had motors and whatnot. And that thing required 6 D cell batteries to drive it. So they, 30, 40 years ago, they knew how much power it was really going to take. It was quite a thing. So I'm going to put some more thought into it. But if you have this boat and you're wondering why it's ripping through batteries so quickly, well, that's why. It's just the motors, the circuitry is such a big draw, such a big current draw. It's really pushing a AA battery to its limits, at its limits. So these were 6 fresh ones that I put in here, and they're not enough to power this. And I don't have any energizers or Duracells on me. Maybe rechargeables, nickel metal hydride might work. Not sure. So that's what's happened with the SS Minnow. It does work. It's got a power problem that we're going to have to work through. Thanks for watching.